criteria that one should use when utilizing that brain. If we're talking about somebody who's going to lead America and the world, you need somebody who has demonstrated significant accomplishment in their life, number one. You also need somebody whose ideas and policies are clear and easy to find, so that with your intellect you can evaluate them. You need to look at how they treat others and how they treat their family, because that's how they're going to treat the American people. We need to see what have they done for America. Someone who wants to lead this nation should in fact have demonstrated in their life that they are trying to improve life for people in America. And we should also look at the people that they work with. Who are those people? What do those people have to say? And how have they been able to collaborate with other people to get things done? All of those are very important factors, and somebody who can check the box on all of those is going to make an incredible leader. Also, somebody who's ethical, because what we need in America right now is trickle-down ethics. It's very important that we get that. And conservatives should not be ashamed of capitalism. We've had those who've tried to make it sound like a bad word. It's not a bad word. It had produced the highest standard of living that anybody has ever known. But what we must do as conservatives is to make sure that we couple capitalism with compassion. And that will be a winning formula for us. Recognize that in this country we have 330 million people. And it sounds like a lot of people, but compare that with China, 1.4 billion. India, 1.1 billion. It means we need to develop all of our people. We can't afford to have 20+% of our people not graduating from high school in the technological age. We cannot afford to have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the inmates. And we need to look at a government that has policies that destroys families rather than pulling families together, because you need that family unit in order to strengthen America. You know, our pillars of strength are faith and our family. And as those things are being eroded, you see what is happening to our nation. We, the people, have to be the ones who really push these things. The government is not pushing it. The government, they don't understand what compassion is. They think patting somebody on the head and saying, there, you poor little thing, I'm going to take care of all your needs, is compassion. That is just the opposite of compassion. That is making people dependent on the system. That is the worst thing you can do to anybody. So what we must concentrate on is the path, the bridge that allows people to move out of a state of dependency and become part of the strength and fabric of this country. That's how we become strong as a nation. The fewer people we have to pull along, and the more people who become part of the productive side of America, the better life will be for everybody. And that's what we have to keep in mind. We also must recognize that we, the American people, are not each other's enemies. You know, it's, I think, a nefarious group of individuals who are making every attempt to divide us as Americans. And what we must begin to really concentrate on is having conversations with each other and talking through our differences and finding resolution. Again, a reason that we have these amazing brains. And if we're fighting each other all the time, then it makes it excessively easy for those who really are our enemies the radical Islamic terrorists who want to destroy us. We need to understand that. And why would we make their job easier for them by trying to destroy ourselves? And we need to identify those people in our society who are always trying to splinter us too, because believe me, they are not our friends either. We also need to be thinking about our future generations. And this is an area that has concerned me immensely. Thomas Jefferson said it's immoral to borrow from the next generation. Think about that. Here we are in a situation where $19 trillion, and it's going to be $20 trillion next year. Think about the impact of that. The Fed has to suppress the interest rates. They don't necessarily want income to rise either, because we're in such a difficult economic situation. But think what happens to the American dream when Joe the butcher cannot go every Friday like he used to the bank and put 5 to 10% of his check in a savings account and watch it grow over the next few decades, because there is no growth. There is no incentive to do that. Same thing with the bond market. So only place money can be made is in the stock market. Well, who can invest in the stock market? Well-to-do people. And hence, what happens? The income gap grows. So along comes Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton talking about this income gap, and they say it's the evil rich people. It is not the evil rich people, it's the evil government that keeps driving our debts up to these levels. That's what's causing the problem. And we must be able to identify where the true culprits lie. The government keeps growing because it feels that it's the one who can solve our problems. That's a mistake. You know, it started sort of like in the 20s with the Wilson administration, kept multiplying. By the time we got to the Johnson administration, you know, you're talking, we, the government, are going to eliminate poverty. Remember that? The war on poverty. How'd that work out? You know, $19 trillion later, we have 10 times more people on food stamps, more welfare, poverty, broken homes out of wedlock birth, crime, incarceration. Everything is not only worse, it's much worse. And that's what happens when the government starts doing things that it's not supposed to do. They need to read the Constitution. That is not their job. Taking care of the indigent, that is our job. That is our job. We the people, not the government. And maybe the government did read it. Maybe they read the Constitution. They got confused when they read the preamble, where it says one of their jobs is to promote the general welfare. They probably thought it meant to put everybody on general welfare. That's not what it means. But that's what happens when you have a government that is way too big. And I'm hopeful that maybe some people, now that I am leaving the campaign trail, yeah, I know there's I know there's a lot. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. But even though I might be leaving the campaign, you know, there's a lot of people who love me. They just won't vote for me, but it's okay. It's not a problem. You know, I will still continue to be heavily involved, in trying to save our nation. We have to save it. And I'll be involved in a lot of different things, including My Faith Votes, which is an organization that is going to try to help the faith community to recognize how important their vote is. Because in 2012, 25 million evangelicals did not vote. The margin of difference was only 5 million. So it gives you some idea of how important that is, but we have to get these people registered, and we have to get them to understand that they have to play a role. Because a lot of people in the faith community, they say, God's got it under control, so I just don't really need to do anything. Well, one of the ways that God controls it is through us. And so we have to do stuff, you know? And, just brings me to the whole topic of our faith as a nation. We're in the process of allowing the secular progressives to drive faith out of our country. And you look at, one of their heroes, Saul Alinsky, who was also a hero of Hillary Clinton. And he was a community organizer like Barack Obama. And he wrote a famous book, as you know, called Rules for Radicals. Now, to just give you some idea of who these people are, on the dedication page, it says this book is dedicated to Lucifer, the original radical who gained his own kingdom. So when we're talking about throwing God out and then substituting something that is radically different, you can imagine what the effects of that are going to be on our nation. We're the only ones who can change that. And I know that President Obama said we're not a Judeo-Christian nation, but he doesn't get to decide. We get to decide what kind of nation we are. And it is so important. It is so important that the people with common sense, that includes, conservative people, it includes even some Democrats. There are some. But it includes the people who understand that right now, this is a most important election because we are deciding, do we want to allow the government to dictate our rights? In exchange, they take care of all of our necessities, or do we want to have a nation where individuals have choice and where we take the responsibility for our needs in an atmosphere of equality of opportunity? Because isn't that what it's about? Not equality of everything except for opportunity. We give opportunity to everybody in America. And the bottom line is, we the people, we are the ones who will be making the decisions. But in order to do that, we must become active. We must become informed. We cannot continue to allow ourselves to be influenced and molded by the political class and by the media. That is going to destroy us. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because the press is the only business